I just got this bag of sprout seeds. In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn these seeds into a jar of sprouts. Hey guys, it's Joe here, coming at you with another video. And today I want to talk about how you can grow your own sprouts from a bag of seeds. So I was just kind of browsing around YouTube, and one thing that I saw pop up a lot was sprouts. Now, I've never heard of sprouts before, but it seemed like it was really easy based on these tutorials that I was watching. So I decided to go ahead and jump in and try it out for myself. So I went out to my local gardening store and just got a bag of seeds that I thought I might try out and see what kind of results we can get. So if you don't know what sprouts are, basically it's the same seeds that you would normally see. A really popular one to use is broccoli seeds. Basically what you're doing is you're putting them into a small mason jar, allowing them to soak in water, germinate, and turn into little baby plants that you just eat before they turn into their adult plant forms. So sprouts work really great on salads. They have a lot of nutrition in them. They're good for digestion and they give you a lot of protein. And if it's of any importance to you, it's completely non-GMO, no pesticides, completely all natural, organic, grown from your own home. So you know exactly what's going into there. None of that GMO stuff, if you're worried about that. So the nice thing about sprout seeds is that they last a year and they're really cheap. So you can buy them, a whole bunch of them, just for a few dollars, and they'll give you a lot of edible sprouts that will last you for many months to come. So just as a rule of thumb, if you get a half cup of seeds, that'll get you about 4 cups of sprouts. So just a really small bag of seeds is going to get you a whole lot of material that you can use to feed yourself and add to your salads. So there's a few different types of seeds that you can use. Peas, cabbage, broccoli, kale, those all come to mind. And you can always mix them together if you want. There's no one particular seed that's going to stand out amongst the others. You can pretty much just choose whichever one is available to you that you come across and just use that for your sprouts. So I think this packet that I got is a mix of different seeds. So you can kind of read on the back here. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. But basically what we have in here, we have some alfalfa, red clover mix, and some broccoli and kale. It really doesn't matter what kind of seeds that you pick, just as long as you're happy with it, it's something you can work with, I think that'll be fine. Most seeds will probably give you the same results anyway. And best of all, you can grow sprouts any time of the year. You don't have to wait for a particular season to grow these sprouts. Just any time of the year, throw them in a mason jar, soak them, and you should get sprouts within a week or two. So it's a really quick turnaround time. You don't have to wait for several months until you can harvest them. Since you're just eating them when they're essentially little babies, you don't have to wait so long for them to grow to full-grown adults before you can enjoy your salad mix. So without further ado, let's get into how you can grow your sprouts. All right, so let me start out by explaining to you the 3 things that you're going to need to make this happen. So first thing you'll need, obviously, your seeds. Second thing, you're going to need some sort of jar. Any kind of jar will do. You might even be able to do this with a cup, but it might be a little bit more difficult to handle. But basically, you're looking for some kind of jar that has a lid on it. That'll make it a little bit easier to work with. Next thing you'll need is something to hold your jar in. I'll get to why you need a bowl later in this video, but basically it's going to help you dry out your sprouts between rinsing cycles. And this one's optional, but if you want to make things a little easier on yourself, it might be helpful to get some kind of strainer like this, or some kind of mesh material that will help you to pour out the water when we get to those rinsing cycles. And there's actually a lid on Amazon that has a mesh cover on this. So kind of like the lid that goes on the jar, but with a mesh on it. But if you don't have any of those, just these 3 materials will be fine for you. Okay, so first thing we gotta do, let's open up the package. And in case you guys are curious, here's what it looks like inside. So hopefully don't spill these out. Yeah, so we got a handful of seeds in here. Okay, so just as a rule of thumb, you should expect these to expand about 8 times in volume. So if you get half a cup of seeds, it's going to turn into 8 cups. So just keep that in mind when you're filling up this jar with your seeds. I'm going to go ahead and pour them in here. You also want to make sure that you're only pouring in just enough that you'll be able to finish it within a week. You don't want to overwhelm yourself, because these guys will start to go bad after about a week of storage. Okay, so I think I used about half of this container. I think I'll just start out with that and see how that goes. So I'll just bring this a little closer. You can kind of see how much that went up to. So my bag was 30 grams, and this is what 15 grams looks like, just about. Okay, one thing I should mention, when you're going to start germinating your seeds, you're probably going to want to start at nighttime, because you're going to want them to soak in the water for 8 to 12 hours. Doing it at nighttime is just kind of lines up well with when you're going to go to sleep. And then you wake up in the morning and be ready to do your first rinsing cycle. So it's nighttime when I'm recording this, so this kind of works out nicely. So now that we have the seeds in the jar, we gotta add some water to it. And we're gonna fill it up about in half an inch to an inch high, and we're just gonna allow it to soak overnight. All right, so we got that about an inch high. Okay, so now that we've gotten our water in here, might be nice to swirl it up a little bit, make sure all those seeds are broken up and they're not like sticking to the bottom or anything. So now that that's done, pretty much all we gotta do is wait. So I'm gonna cap this off. I think you're supposed to put these in a dark place, but I don't think it's gonna make too much of a difference. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it into one of the drawers down here, and we're gonna just put it right here. I'm gonna close it off, and we'll come back in the morning. Alright guys, so it's tomorrow morning. Let's check on our sprouts. Okay, so here they are. There's not too much of a difference, but you can see them start to swell up a little bit compared to yesterday. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is we're going to drain them, rinse them, and let it dry. So let's start out by draining them. So for this part, this is where a mesh might come in handy, but in case you don't have one, I'm going to show you how you can do this without one. So you might lose a little bit without the mesh, but you can try holding your finger out here to kind of stop any seeds from coming out. And this will get easier when the seeds start to become a little bit bigger. It'll be easier to kind of stop them from coming out. Alright, so you can kind of scrape your finger along the lid there to get the seeds back in. So you can kind of see that worked pretty well. Looks like we stopped out most of the seeds from falling out. So what we're going to do next is we're going to rinse them, and we're going to do the same thing again. So this rinsing will make sure that we clear out all the bacteria from our seeds and just give them some fresh water. So that time was a little bit easier because we didn't have as many seeds floating on top of the water. Okay, so now that we've drained and rinsed our seeds, what we're going to do is we're just going to put it in a bowl here, and we're going to put it at an angle like this. And that's going to allow the water to drain out of here. So the gravity is going to pull that water from our seeds into the bowl and let them dry out a bit. And so we're going to leave this for today, and we're going to come back in the afternoon to repeat that cycle. So it's the afternoon now. We're going to go ahead and do another cycle of rinse and drain of these sprouts. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how you can pour this out and do the draining if you have one of these strainers. So it's pretty easy. I think if you just cover it up and pour it out, the strainer should stop the seeds from falling out. Yep, so I think that worked pretty well. You can see the seeds that were about to fall out, and looks like there weren't any seeds that got stuck to the strainer, so that's kind of nice. So we're gonna go ahead, put this back in the bowl, and we'll come back tomorrow morning to do another cycle. Alright guys, so it's day 2 morning, and we're starting to see the sprouts start to come in. Okay, so we're going to give this a quick rinse, and we'll come back tomorrow. Okay, so it's afternoon of day 2, and we can already start to see that the sprouts are growing at a pretty fast rate. So just even compared to just this morning, we're already seeing them start to grow a little bit larger. So I'm going to repeat another cycle of rinsing and draining, and we'll check back tomorrow morning. It's morning day 3. This is what our sprouts look like. So we're going to rinse, drain, and put it back in the bowl and come back in the afternoon. It's day 8 afternoon. Our sprouts are really starting to come in now. You can see it's already filling up half the bottle now. And that's a huge expansion, a lot more than I was expecting in terms of the volume. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this, drain it, and we'll come back tomorrow morning. It's day 4. Here's what our sprouts look like. We're really starting to get a lot of volume here with our sprouts. It's almost filling up the jar entirely. I think they'll be ready for harvesting in a couple days from now. But for now, I'm going to rinse them, drain them, and we'll come back in the afternoon. It's day 4 afternoon. We're starting to see it grow. You know the drill. Rinse, drain, and let it dry. So it's day 5. This is what our sprouts are looking like. It's getting really full right now. It's almost looking like it's coming out over the top. I think these should be ready in about a day or so. The main thing that we're looking for is for little leaflets to start popping up here and starting to look green. So I think we're almost at that point. So we should be ready to harvest these really soon. But for now, we're just going to continue rinsing and draining. It's now the afternoon, and we can see that the sprouts are starting to turn green, especially on this side. I think this is where the light was kind of hitting it through the glass. This side is still looking a little yellow. So what I'm thinking is these will probably be good to harvest tomorrow. But for now, we're going to rinse and drain it to see if it turns a little bit more green on this side. And maybe we'll get a little bit of extra length on these sprouts. So I'll just pull one of these out just so you can see how long these are getting. So here's a singular sprout. Here's another one. I think that's 2 of them. Yeah, these are starting to come in nicely. Alright guys, it's day 5 and our sprouts are ready to harvest. So here's what they look like. You can kind of see that they're looking pretty green around most of the jar. A couple things to keep in mind when you harvest them. They're only going to be good for about 5 days if you refrigerate them. If you want them to last longer, you'll probably need to put them in the freezer. That'll give them an extra 5 days. There's like certain chemicals that start to build up if you wait a little bit too long for them. So this is kind of optional, but some people like to rinse out the extra seeds that might still be sitting in the jar in case you don't want to eat those. So what you can do if you want to do that, you're just going to put the sprouts into a big pot or just any old pot like this, and you're just going to rinse them out and separate out the seeds. And ideally you should use a strainer for this, and that'll make your life a lot easier. Okay, so we're just going to pull the sprouts out and just see if we can get them into this pot here. So they're going to be pretty firmly stuck in there, so you got to do a little bit of pulling to get them out. There we go. Okay, so that is way more than I thought we would have. And you can rinse out the jar and kind of get the seeds in with the batch. So once you have them out in here, you're just going to rinse them. This will help get some of the seeds to separate out. You can kind of massage it a little bit like this, swirl it around just to get those seeds to come out. So ideally the seeds should float to the top here, and if you pour the water out kind of like this, the seeds will kind of separate them. You can separate out the seeds like this. And here's where the strainer comes in handy. If you want to make sure you're not losing out on all your sprouts, you can just kind of pour them through the strainer like this. Okay, so most of that was seeds, so I think we can just throw this part away or put it in the compost. And we're just going to do a few cycles of this to make sure we get all those seeds out. So I think that's going to be enough rinsing. So once you're all done with that, at this point is when you're going to take these and put them into a plastic bag so that you can store them in your fridge or your freezer. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I got a plastic bag like this one. You could use Ziploc bags if you want to separate these out. Maybe you want to put some in the freezer and some in your fridge. But I'm just going to put them all in the fridge, so I'm just going to use this big bag. Yeah, so they stick together pretty easily, so it's not too much of a hassle to throw them in a bag here. But that's pretty much it. Now you have your sprouts ready to eat on demand in this bag. And you'll notice that there's a few seeds left over in the pot that you can just throw out. So that's pretty much it. That's how you grow your sprouts. So in case you want to look in the bag, this is what we got. You can eat these raw, or you can mix them up in a salad or a protein shake or something. I think for this video, I'll just try a little bunch like this and see how it tastes. I think it turned out pretty good. They're pretty fresh, and they don't taste half bad. So if you ever want to grow sprouts, it's pretty easy. All you gotta do is rinse, drain, repeat in a mason jar, and that's pretty much it. If you learned something new, if that helped you out, make sure to leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing. But other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.